Imagine building a life with someone, trusting them with your heart, only to discover that the person you love the most has betrayed you. What would you do if you found out your husband was cheating on you? Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and leave a comment below. Share your thoughts on what you would do in such a situation. Anna had always envisioned her life as a perfect fairy tale. Growing up in a family where stability and love were the cornerstones, she had always expected her own marriage to be built on those same values. Mark, her husband, was the man she had always imagined being with forever. He was caring, supportive, and had a charm that made her feel like the most important person in the world. Together, they had created a life that seemed ideal: 2 children, a cozy home, and a future full of promise. But Anna's backstory told a different story. Raised in a family where love was often a distant idea, Anna grew up with a strong belief that marriage was about sacrifice, loyalty, and standing by your partner no matter what. Her mother and father never had a perfect relationship, and Anna had always sworn that her marriage would be different. She dreamt of a partner who would cherish her, who would love her not just for her beauty, but for her inner strength. She didn't just want a marriage, she wanted a companion for life, someone who would walk with her through both the good and bad times. But as the years passed, Anna began to see the subtle changes in Mark that she had dismissed at first. Long hours at work, late night meetings, and unexplained absences started to add up. At first, Anna tried to rationalize it. She thought it was the pressures of work, the stress of raising children, and the never-ending responsibilities that come with marriage. After all, they had a family to take care of, and she couldn't possibly expect Mark to always be around for every moment. Yet, as the distance between them grew, Anna couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. Mark had always been an affectionate person, someone who would shower her with little acts of love. But now, those gestures seemed to have vanished. He became cold, distant, and when Anna tried to reach out, he brushed her off. There were moments when she caught him staring at his phone, but whenever she walked into the room, he would quickly hide it, an act that seemed so out of character for the man she once knew. It made her uneasy, but she tried to suppress the growing doubt that lingered in her mind. Anna's emotional journey was one of confusion and pain. She didn't know how to handle the growing distance. She found herself questioning everything she thought she knew about her relationship. Was Mark still the man she married? Or had he become a stranger? The betrayal she was about to uncover would force her to confront emotions she had long buried: anger, fear, and, above all, heartbreak. One evening, after a particularly exhausting day spent managing the household and taking care of the kids, Anna decided to surprise Mark with a romantic dinner. It was an attempt to reconnect, to revive the spark they once had. But when she arrived home, Mark wasn't there. It wasn't unusual. He often stayed late at work or met clients after hours. But tonight, something felt different. Anna, feeling both anxious and hopeful, decided to check Mark's phone. She had never done this before, never felt the need to invade his privacy. But tonight, something urged her to take that step. As she unlocked his phone, Anna's heart raced. The first message she saw was from a woman named Sarah. Her fingers trembled as she read through the texts: flirtatious words, promises of secret meetings, and intimate exchanges. Anna's heart sank as she pieced together the evidence. Mark had been having an affair. All the love, trust, and security she had once felt were now shattered. The man she had trusted, the father of her children, had betrayed her in the most devastating way. Her mind went numb as she replayed every moment, every sign she had ignored. The hours Mark spent away, the secretive phone calls, the growing indifference. It was all there, right in front of her. Anna couldn't understand how Mark, the man who had promised to love and cherish her, could do this. How could he break the vows they had made? The life they had built together now felt like a lie. In the silence of that moment, Anna's world came crashing down. The betrayal was not just a betrayal of trust, but a betrayal of everything she had believed in. She had built her entire life around the idea of love and loyalty, only to find that it was all a facade. She felt lost, betrayed not only by Mark, but also by her own expectations of love. The woman she had once been was no longer the same. This discovery would force Anna to confront her deepest fears and question everything about the life she had so carefully constructed. In the aftermath of her discovery, Anna couldn't escape the flood of emotions that overwhelmed her: anger, sadness, betrayal. But deep down, there was something else that gnawed at her: confusion. How had she missed the signs? How had Mark, the man she trusted the most, become someone she no longer recognized? The more Anna reflected, the more questions she had. But there was something deeper at play here, something she hadn't fully understood about Mark until now. Mark had always been the calm, collected one, the one who carried the weight of the world with a smile. But now, Anna started to see a side of him she had never known, a side filled with guilt and regret. He wasn't the villain in the story she had painted him to be. There was more to this affair than just betrayal. Days passed, and Anna became consumed by the emotional turmoil. She barely spoke to Mark, letting the silence between them grow thicker by the hour. But one evening, after what felt like an eternity of coldness, Mark came to her. His eyes were heavy, filled with an emotion she couldn't quite place: regret, guilt, or perhaps something deeper. "I never meant to hurt you," Mark said, his voice raw and trembling. Anna barely looked up, her heart too heavy to let her words escape easily. But Mark continued, his words slower now, as though he had rehearsed them 1,000 times in his mind. "I've been struggling, not just with work, not just with our marriage, but with who I've become." He paused, as if searching for the right words. "This affair wasn't about you. It wasn't even about Sarah. It was about me. I've been lost, Anna. And in that darkness, I found someone who listened, someone who made me feel seen." For the first time, Anna felt a strange shift. Mark's affair had always seemed like a simple act of betrayal, an attempt to find comfort outside of their marriage. But now she saw that it was more than that. Mark hadn't just cheated on her, he had cheated on himself. He had been seeking validation and escape from the pressures he had been carrying silently for so long. His confession wasn't an excuse for what he had done, but it gave Anna a glimpse into his internal conflict. Mark had been consumed by the weight of his own insecurities, fears of inadequacy, and a sense of not measuring up to the expectations that had always been placed on him, by his work, by his family, by Anna. Anna felt a pang of empathy, one she hadn't expected. She realized that Mark had been living a life of quiet desperation, much like her own. She had always believed in the perfect marriage, but she too had been struggling silently with the balance of motherhood, love, and the expectations of a perfect family. Their marriage had become a facade for both of them, hidden beneath layers of unspoken truths. But this didn't change the fact that Mark had broken her heart. The betrayal was still raw, and the pain was too much to bear. She stood up, her eyes now filled with tears. "You've destroyed everything, Mark. I trusted you with my life, with our children, and you threw it all away for a momentary escape." Her voice cracked as the weight of her words hit her. She didn't want to forgive him. She didn't want to feel sympathy for a man who had betrayed her in such a brutal way. Mark's head dropped as he absorbed her words. He had no defense, no excuse. He had made a choice, and now he had to face the consequences. But as Anna looked at him, she realized something that both terrified and empowered her. She could walk away. She didn't need him to feel whole. She didn't need to stay in a relationship that had been broken beyond repair. But that meant facing her own demons, her own need for validation, for love, and for the belief that she was worthy of both. The weight of her decision wasn't easy to carry. Anna had spent so many years defining her worth through her marriage, through Mark's love. But in this moment, she realized she had to redefine herself, not as Mark's wife, but as Anna, a woman who was capable of standing on her own. In that silence, as they both stood at the crossroads of their marriage, Anna's mind raced. She had to decide whether to hold on to a broken relationship out of familiarity or to let it go and find the strength within herself to rebuild. But that choice wasn't going to come easily. And as Anna walked away from Mark that evening, she couldn't shake the feeling that there was something more to this story, something that was yet to unfold, something that would change everything. Days turned into weeks, and the tension in Anna's home grew unbearable. She had made the decision to take a step back, to give herself the space to think and to heal. But even as she put physical distance between herself and Mark, the emotional distance between them only widened. Mark had made his confession, and now he was desperate for Anna to understand. But Anna had to confront something far deeper than just the betrayal. She had to face the truth that had been buried beneath the surface of their marriage for years. It wasn't just the affair that hurt, it was everything leading up to it. Mark's affair was the symptom of a much bigger issue: the neglect of their emotional connection, the quiet loneliness they both felt, yet never addressed. Anna realized that she too had been blind to the distance between them. She had been so focused on keeping the family together, on fulfilling her role as the perfect wife and mother, that she failed to notice the cracks forming in their relationship. She had been just as emotionally distant, burying her own fears and frustrations for the sake of keeping up appearances. But the more she reflected, the more Anna understood that Mark wasn't the only one at fault. She had played her part in allowing the relationship to deteriorate. It was easier to blame him, to see him as the villain in this story. But Anna had to face the uncomfortable truth that they had both neglected each other in different ways. Her fear of confrontation, her inability to communicate her needs and insecurities, had kept her in a stagnant marriage. As Anna stood in front of the mirror one evening, she saw a woman who was no longer defined by her role as a wife, as a mother, but as an individual. The woman staring back at her was someone who had been lost for far too long. And while the pain of Mark's betrayal was still fresh, it was in that moment that Anna realized she had to take control of her life. She was no longer going to let her marriage define her. The truth was, she had been looking for happiness outside herself, but the only way to find it was to look inward. As Anna began to rebuild herself, she found solace in her newfound independence. She started going to the gym, spending more time with her children, and picking up old hobbies she had abandoned years ago. But despite all her efforts to move on, she couldn't shake the feeling of something unresolved hanging in the air. The affair, Mark's guilt, and their strained marriage all weighed heavily on her mind. She knew she couldn't live in this limbo forever, but she wasn't ready to face Mark again, not just yet. One day, as fate would have it, Anna ran into someone unexpected. It was at a local coffee shop, a place she had started visiting to enjoy a moment of quiet away from her chaotic life. As she waited for her order, she noticed a familiar face sitting at a table near the window. It was Sarah, the woman Mark had been seeing. For a moment, Anna froze. The last thing she expected was to come face to face with the woman who had been a catalyst for all the pain in her life. She felt a rush of anger and betrayal flood her chest. The woman who had taken her husband's attention away from her. The woman who had shared the intimate moments Anna thought were only hers. There she was, sitting just a few feet away. But instead of storming over and confronting Sarah with all the rage she felt, something inside Anna shifted. There was a calmness, a strange sense of curiosity that prevented her from reacting impulsively. She watched Sarah for a while, noticing how she was lost in her thoughts, sipping her coffee as if the world outside didn't exist. As Anna stood there, her emotions a tangled mess, Sarah suddenly looked up and caught her eye. For a split second, they both stared at each other. Two women bound by the same man, yet so far apart in their experiences. And then, unexpectedly, Sarah gave a small, hesitant smile, one that seemed to say, "I know what this feels like, too." Anna took a deep breath, and before she knew it, she walked over and sat down across from Sarah. There was no shouting, no accusations, just an awkward silence that hung between them. "Can we talk?" Anna asked, her voice softer than she expected. In that moment, Anna realized that confronting Sarah wasn't about seeking answers from her. It was about understanding. Understanding not just Mark's betrayal, but everything that had led them both to this point. The conversation between Anna and Sarah started off with awkward silence, but as they sat across from each other, something in the air began to change. Neither woman had expected this moment. There was no anger, no accusations, only two people who had been deeply hurt, trying to make sense of the mess that had been created by one man's actions. Sarah, the woman who had been part of the affair, looked nervous, her hands fidgeting around her coffee cup. Anna could feel the tension in the air. But there was something else, too, an unspoken understanding that both of them had been victims in different ways. "I never meant for any of this to happen," Sarah started, her voice barely above a whisper. Anna could tell she was struggling with guilt, with the weight of the situation she was in. She had been the other woman, the one who had been part of the betrayal, but now she seemed like a woman who was also grappling with her own demons. I I didn't know he was married at first. He never talked about you or his family. I never thought it would go this far." Anna's heart skipped a beat at Sarah's words. She had never considered that Mark had kept his life with her so hidden, so compartmentalized. It made the situation even more complex. It wasn't just about Sarah seeking validation or attention. It seemed that Mark had deliberately kept his two lives separate, feeding each with different truths and lies. Sarah continued, her eyes filled with sorrow. "When I found out about you, I was already in too deep, but I never intended to hurt you. I I thought he was going to leave you. He said he was unhappy, that his marriage was falling apart. But I see now. I see the pain I've caused, and I'm so sorry." Anna sat there, processing Sarah's words. The revelation was staggering. Mark had lied to Sarah as much as he had lied to her. He had played both women, feeding them different versions of the same story. Anna had always believed that Sarah was the one who had knowingly stolen her husband, but now she saw that Mark had orchestrated the entire affair. He had manipulated both women into believing in something that wasn't real. The weight of it all hit Anna like a wave. This wasn't just a betrayal by Mark. It was a betrayal by the very image of the man she had married. He had been a master of deception, playing with her emotions and Sarah's in a way that made Anna question everything she thought she knew about him. For the first time in weeks, Anna felt a strange sense of clarity. The pain wasn't just about the affair. It was about the lies, the manipulation, and the realization that the man she had loved was not who she thought he was. She stood up, her heart heavy, but her resolve stronger than ever. "I don't know what I'm going to do with this information," Anna said quietly. "But one thing is for sure. I need to let go of the past." As she walked away from Sarah, Anna realized that her journey of healing wasn't just about facing Mark. It was about reclaiming her own power and finding a way to forgive herself for believing in the lies that had once defined her life.